students, colleagues, dear Noah community, it is that time again. It is time for jazz. And this is the 7th time that our school has celebrated International Jazz Day. Established by UNESCO in 2011, at the initiative of Herbie Hancock, the legendary jazz pianist and composer, but also UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador, and recognized by the United Nations General Assembly, International Jazz Day brings together countries and communities worldwide every April 30th. UNESCO's partner in organizing and promoting this celebration is the Herbie Hancock Institute of Jazz, a non-profit music education organization that partners with international schools from all over the world, including Nova International Schools. The 2023 International Jazz Day will be celebrated in more than 190 countries. This year, the flagship event, the spectacular All-Star Global Concert, will not be staged in one place, but instead will feature performances in 13 global cities, a real international jazz tour hosted by Herbie Hancock. On this live-streamed concert, we'll be able to see performances by some of the world's most accomplished jazz artists, including Cyril Elming, Ambrose Akinmusiner, Tana Alexa, John Beasley, Didi Bridgewater, Bill Charlotte, Emmett Cohen, Tom Ganish, Melody Gardot, Sergio Mendes, Marcus Miller, Tanguy Tuli, Philippe Powell, Diane Reeves, and others. The concert will be webcast worldwide on April 30th at 10 p.m. CET on jazzday.com, UNESCO.org, the International Jazz Day YouTube and Facebook channels, and other outlets. And for our celebration today, here with us, we have a musician and archeologist, one of our best percussionists, Goce Naumov. He has played concerts around Europe and USA as a member of the renowned bands next to Silence and Sethstat, but also had many international collaborations. He likes playing with different genres, but through his educational jazz performance today, which I believe will be very entertaining and inspiring, he will try to get this genre closer to you. And if jazz is about being in the moment, as Herbie Hancock has said, then I wish you all enjoy this moment and all that jazz. Goce Naumov.
Say you do. Let me fly away with you. For my love is like the wind, and wild is the wind. Wild is the wind. Give me more than one caress. satisfy this hungriness. Let the wind blow through your heart. And wild is the wind. Wild is the wind. Hello, Nova community. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm grateful to the organizers for inviting me to be here among you and to talk a bit about jazz and to play a bit as well. So it's a huge honor to be in this temple of knowledge, and I am glad to share my small knowledge about jazz with you. And I do hope that you will somehow like more jazz after this International Jazz Day, because it's composed of many different performances by different musicians in different countries. And as much as you listen to that music, I believe you're gonna like it more. So the major question is, what is jazz? Does anyone knows what is jazz? Except this popular basketball team from Utah. We know they are Utah Jazz, but is there some other definition about jazz? Anyone can tell me? Or you are so far I cannot hear you. Okay, so jazz uh, is music that defines lives of many, and it's not just a music, it's not just a style, but it's also a way of living, and so many people in the world are devoted to different kind of understanding of music and the world itself. So that's why they decided to play music that it's popularly called jazz, but it interacts different styles, different music, and jazz by itself, it's not a new music, but it's a music that originates from different styles before it was established as a new genre in the music. So even the background of jazz is based on African music and a bit of Cuban music, also European music from France, from England in 19th century. So that's how actually even from its beginning jazz confirms that it's a music that incorporates different styles, and that's the direction in which it will be developed further. So since beginning of 20th century, when this music is established, until nowadays we have so many different styles of jazz. Some of them are not so pleasant to listen. Some of them are quite juicy for the ears. So each person decides what kind of jazz it's convenient for the soul and the ears as well. But in its core, jazz has one feature that it's common for this style, and it's not so present in many other styles, and that's the improvisation. Improvisation is the key aspect of jazz music, and that's how actually developed so fast into different styles and different modes of music. Improvisation was part of many traditional musics and a bit of classical music, but classical music maybe in the period of Franz Liszt and a bit in the music of Bach, you can listen some improvisational elements, but since then, since it becomes really classical, it's sort of rigid music based on principles and rules, and each interpretation of classical music is based on tradition that cannot be changed. Maybe the approach, the emotion is something that affects some kind of new changes, but in general, the music that is composed by Beethoven until nowadays is played in the same way. It's not same with the jazz. I mean, in classical music, if I play Beethoven's da-da-da-dan, in jazz version like da-di-da-da-dan, then 700,000 classical music teachers will come and will punish me because I didn't play Beethoven in the right way. But in jazz, the point is to improvise and to modify the tunes. I mean, to learn them as they are composed, but the point is to modify them and to create something new. And that's the biggest benefit of jazz, to put something that is common for the particular time, no matter whether the composition is made many years ago. What I did in the very beginning is one song which is quite old. It's made for a movie which is called Wild is the Wind, and it's a song that was first sang by John Mathis, not quite popular song, but Nina Simone, a popular singer, she found it and then she made a new version of this soundtrack song, and her version was quite desperate because she was explaining the love behind the winds. Then David Bowie was mesmerized by this Nina Simone song. I'm sure you heard about David Bowie and you like it, and he put a different emphasis on this song, and it becomes much more emotional. It is a longing for love and explanation of his love, and then it becomes a huge hit and many people like it, and actually it's the most popular version of this song, Wild the Wind. Well, my interpretation was totally different. I wanted to illustrate winds with these symbols, and then to put a bit of the song, not in the good way like Nina and David Bowie, of course, but just to illustrate the possibility of jazz music and the music in general to put image or sound to the image that is created by some lyrics. So that's for me one of the major contributions in the jazz music, and that is the improvisation, which is also some kind of interpretation. And if you go to the etymology of the word improvisation, you can find that it's similar to improve, improvisation, or improvisation would be something to make it better or different in any new performance or any new approach to particular tune or particular composition. So that's why jazz is something that allows you to combine things in a unique way, in your own way, and to put a different sound or different narration that goes behind this composition. So, for example, I will take one word that you all like, that is cool. So if you take the word school and you can put it in different parts of the sentence, and then you can make improvisation with the word and maybe change the context of the sentence. For example, if we say Nova is best school, then in the next sentence we can say Nova school is best, but in the third sentence we can put the word school in different place and then make something that will sound like Yoda from Star Wars, like school Nova best is. So this is also allowed in jazz. There are different jazz musicians that make this kind of going out from the rules, and they make new sounds that inspire people to make even new kinds of art. For example, some jazz musicians inspired painters to create this kind of more modern or postmodern arts in USA particularly. So in that way we can say that actually jazz is something that really brings new standards and new perspectives of music, and that's why we can expect that in the future jazz will change its sound in spite of the traditional and original sound. Speaking of origin, we have to say that the core of jazz is in Africa. Africa is, for many ways, origin of many things. Even we are coming all from Africa. I mean, our ancestors from 5 million years ago are coming from Africa. The first Homo sapiens 100,000 years ago is coming from Africa to Europe as well. So in this sense, even the core of jazz music is coming from Africa, from Central Africa. And then with all these social changes in 19th century, with bringing many people from Africa to Caribbean area and then to North America, it brings also the culture of these people in North America. And that's how actually the African music somehow made a foundation of jazz music. And that's why quite often when you listen to early jazz music and even something that was going on later, you can hear a lot of African elements. For example, this 6/8 rhythm is so common for jazz, like takata 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 takata. That is so typical African beat, and you can hear it in many nations in Africa, especially in central parts. But in jazz, this 6/8 rhythm was also modified and accommodated towards the European music that was common in 19th century and beginning of 20th century in America. And that's how this ta 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 ta, then it became ta 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 ta. That is the major jazz beat, and most of the traditional jazz compositions are made in this beat. I will later, quite soon actually, I will play this 6/8 rhythm of Africa and then incorporate it into jazz music. So you can also join me. I can add some beats, and maybe you can clap your hands, or you can shout, like we can do ta da da ta da da ta da da hey, ta da da ta da da ta da da hey, hey, ta da da ta da da ta da da hey, ta da da ta da da hey, hey. So if you want, we can play together and we can make tribal music, and then from tribal music we can go to jazz, and we can see how jazz modified the original music into something modern. So if you want, you can interact, but I will start with a bit of singing of a song that was made to honor the African roots of jazz. It's made by Mongo Santa Maria. It's called Afro Blue. And then from this song we go with the beat. Dream of a land my soul is from. I hear a hand stroke on drum. Age of delight, cocoa hue, dream of the night, Afro Blue. to play in front of you such music. And if you notice, we started with 6/8 African groove, and then we went into something more modern. Then we modified the pattern to something else, and in the very end, it becomes a bit free. So if you notice, I try to put some different elements from different styles of jazz and different eras of jazz. So that's why in 5-minute performance, I try to combine all these styles that are known. For example, we know several figures in jazz that truly contributed to change of the music. Maybe you've heard about Miles Davis. He's one of the icons in jazz, and he was sort of Picasso in jazz music, because whatever he started to play, whatever kind of jazz he started to play, it soon becomes a new genre in jazz. So, for example, he started with bebop, and then when he turned into hard bop, he brought entirely new perspective to jazz. Later, he also made some cool jazz music, which is one of the variants of jazz that is more pleasant or more pleasing for the ears of many. And then he invented entirely new style like fusion, with incorporating many young musicians which were even dealing with rock music. So that's how jazz rock was made, and it became popular in many countries, including in Macedonia in the 70s. So it was played by our renowned band Le Bissol. When they started, they were jazz rock fusion band. And then Miles Davis in 80s started entirely new section of jazz, which is called nowadays acid jazz, but in that time it was like pop jazz, and he started to play this kind of popular music. So as you can notice, jazz is not just this traditional music, but it changes its character constantly, and Miles Davis was one of these figures, but there are many others that contribute in the same way in the development of music. There is also one style that I personally like a lot, but it's not so pleasant for the ears. It's called free jazz, and I played a bit of it, and maybe later. And this music or this style of jazz entirely gives you freedom to put any element that you want to add, and then to tell a different story. So that's why I would, for example, have an idea to describe by music some process or some maybe mountain which I see in front of me, and then in the free jazz music you can illustrate with the sound. And what is quite interesting, which is also common for other styles of jazz, it needs interaction. Jazz is based on interaction, and that's why it's one of the most specific music that creates new composition, sometimes entirely new compositions on the very stage, when the musicians are actually putting new elements at the very moment. And that's how actually the free jazz and other styles of jazz make something that is not common to other styles, to other types of music. For example, for classical music, it's always written and it should be played as it is, and jazz music is as well written. I mean, there are tunes that are composed and musicians, they should play them in the exact way, but during the performance they can modify them, and this modification is based on interaction, improvisation and interpretation. So 3 eyes are for me the core part of jazz, and actually it's the most artistic element of jazz music, and it is also something that interacts with other types of arts, with video art, with paintings, with theater, with ballet. So this kind of interaction and interpretations are so common in the modern music, and you can hear a lot of musicians that are and artists and painters and ballet dancers that are working together and creating a new way of art. And this is something that jazz music and jazz approach contributed, and it's also a style of living. Many jazz musicians are actually going beyond the regular norms of living, and they have much, much more philosophical approach towards what they do in everyday life. So I will not go into philosophy. You have it all a lot, I guess, in your classes. But somehow I will go to different, let's say, trajectory of jazz that is based on our own music. So, as I said, in its origin and its development, jazz was constantly absorbing elements from other cultures. And especially in 70s, we had this, let's call it interaction with world music, Indian music, not only African but also Indian and some Asian music was infecting jazz, and then many musicians started to play a bit of let's call it world music in early stage, but the real blossom of world music and jazz world appeared in 90s when many musicians mixed among themselves and music from all over the world, not only from South America, which was along with Africa, the major core for jazz inspiration, but also from New Guinea, from Japan, from Maldives, and even from Nordic countries in Europe. So in 90s we had this new style of, let's call it Nordic jazz, which is one of the most popular in the moment. But among all these countries, also Macedonia and the Balkans in general were inspiring for many musicians, and that's because this region in general has these uncommon so-called odd rhythms, which are 5/7, 7/8, or 9/8, and they actually make the music to sound a bit different, to be more dancey or more dramatic. And many musicians, among them also Lebi Sol, which I mentioned before, they started to mingle with Macedonian music, but also in the 90s many American, European, African musicians as well started to interact with Balkan music. So I will now play a bit of these, let's call them Balkan, not only Macedonian, because they are present in all over the Balkans, and they are not rhythms that are coming from Macedonia originally. These are the rhythms like ta da da ta da da ta da da ta da ta da ta da da ta da 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 ta da da da. So you heard them so many times on weddings, in traditional songs, and I will just bring these rhythms into a new way of jazz, which means that I will consider the tradition, the major beat, but then we'll combine them in a way that was not common for the traditional music. And jazz music likes this kind of combinations of patterns, like 5/7 and 5/8, pardon, and 7/8 rhythm. So that's how we can make maybe new music. So in this sense, if you want, we can start with maybe you can also, like in the previous tune, you can join me with clapping, and then I will turn this beat into something new, like from 7/8 I can go to combination of 7/8 and 5/8. So before I go there, I will announce this rhythm with another song which is called You Gotta Move. It's sort of a blues traditional song, and it's song that actually announced that you got to move to your classrooms, but also interacts with different ideas in the past with people living a bit poorly, but developing these principles of life. So now we go with You Gotta Move, and then afterwards we can go with 7/8 rhythm. You got to move, you got to move, you gotta move, child, you got to move. And when the Lord is ready, you got to move. You may be black, you may be white, you may be wrong, you may be right. And when the Lord is ready, you got to move. You got to move. You got to move. You got to move, child. You got to move. And when the Lord is ready, you got to move one more time. You got to move. You got to move. You got to move, child. You got to move. And when the Lord is ready, you got to move. Keep on. so much. And thank you again, and enjoy your classes, and thank you for your attention. And listen more jazz music and any kind of music as well. Thank you.